Summer Brook Golden Retrievers, and this is 11-week-old Eddie. I am wanting to show you today how to work with your puppy on our stationary heeling exercises and how to make the transition from your puppy working with me to you. So what I want to start off with is just talking about the cues for the stationary exercises. We have physical cues and we also have verbal cues. The puppy will work off of either one. The physical cues are the natural cues that puppies tend to want to follow anyway. They're the cues that you naturally tend to want to do, such as dropping your shoulder back for a left turn and to signify to the puppy that you want him to get to your left, and a pulling forward of that same left shoulder in order to give your puppy the cue that you're fixing to turn to the right. Your puppy is only going to be looking at your left side. He can't see your right side. So you want to be cognizant in the beginning to be doing these cues with your left side and even exaggerating the cues until your puppy gets used to you and how you work, how you move, and he also has to get used to your tone of voice. So right here is the verbal cue to tell your puppy that he's to get in heel position. Yes. And we use markers, marker training, which we have a whole group of pages about marker training coming up soon on our webpage. Yes. So I am just going to do a few of these quarter about left turns, which is basically your puppy getting in position over and over. Yes. And I want to point out that right now, right here, the puppy's, he's just responding off the right here. Yes. He doesn't need the physical cue, or he can respond off the physical cue alone too. Yes. Right here. Yes. 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 Right here. Yes. Now you may notice that, okay, good boy, that I'm fishing the food out of the pouch on my left hip and transferring it over to my left hand. That is easier for me because I can fish the food out while I'm rewarding at the same time. Once you get a leash on your puppy though, you're going to have to transfer the food bag over to your left hip because your right hand is going to be busy holding on to the leash. At first, you need to have the food in your hand and ready to reward. I don't know if you noticed when we were doing these exercises that I did not have the food in my hand. He's not following the food, but it makes it a whole lot easier for you initially to be ready to reward your puppy, because initially he doesn't know that it's fun to work with you. He doesn't know that it pays off to work with you, and so you need to be quicker in the very early stages of training with your puppy than you do later on. So we have right here, I'm doing both the verbal and, yes, the physical cue. Now when you first start with your puppy, you're going to have to exaggerate the cue. Yes. So I'm turning way back, and notice that the puppy is following my finger, yes, all the way back. He doesn't turn back around until I turn back around. Yes. So what you need to do, okay, is basically point to the ground. You need to keep your elbow in close to you. Don't go like this, but what you're doing is making a tight circle. Yes, and picture that you're making a circle on the ground and your puppy is following your hand back and then he's following it back forward. Yes. So it looks like this. Yes. And he's a little too forward because as I'm talking, I accidentally did something that, yes, I want to make sure that you try not to do. Yes. And that is to pull your, if I pull my hand forward like this, then that's going to make my puppy finish too far forward. So I'm going to turn all the way around so you can see this. So he he was following my finger, he was doing what I was physically telling him to do, but it wasn't the right thing. I need to stop my arm motion before, right here, yes, before my hand goes past the front plane of my body. So if I stop this little circle way out here, the puppy's gonna stop way out here too. So initially, when you're first starting to work with your puppy, you're gonna have to exaggerate all of the physical cues because he's not gonna understand you're right here or your simple drop of the shoulder, which is what I can do now, and that is what you can eventually do once he understands the game. But right now, he doesn't know or understand that you know how to play the game. And so that's where you're gonna start off, is just trying to get your puppy to understand that you know the game and that he wants to play the game with you. So oftentimes the first time you start doing this, and you're going right here, he may, yes, look at you like, well, what do you want me to do? He may act like he's never heard the command before. And most likely that's gonna be because we encourage people to start off working with their puppies with the stay exercises. And so if that's all you've been doing with your puppy, he's gonna be thinking, all I have to do with this person is just lay here and she's gonna just keep coming back and forth and giving me food, and that's all this new person knows how to do. So you have got to show your puppy that you know how to play the heeling game as well. So the first time, if your puppy is not paying attention to you, and if he doesn't respond to you, and if he just lays there in front of you, in spite of your saying right here and doing all the physical cues correctly, you may need to do it the first time with a lure. And if you've read much on our website or seen our videos, you would know that we don't use luring much at all. It's always just to jumpstart something where the puppy is totally confused and where he can't get it by shaping. There are also web pages, blog posts on both luring and shaping that you can read about those terms if you don't know what they are. So initially, you may have to lure your puppy. So I may have to hold the food out to him, lure him back like this, and say, yes. Now, the first time you do that, you want to say yes the very first millisecond that the puppy understands what you're asking him to do and that he's starting to move in that direction. So the first time you do it, it's gonna look like this. Yes. And then I'm gonna give him the food. So what I did with that, yes, was I marked him, yes, meaning I said yes, just for him getting started with what I wanted to do. Then, the next time or two, you can ask a little bit more from him. So, the first time, the instant he starts to move towards him, you say yes. You use what's called reward placement to get him to come back to the position that you want him. And again, there's a web page on reward placement and exactly what that is. But what you want him to do is to gradually get the idea that he is supposed to get right here on his own without all these hints. So our philosophy of teaching puppies how to do anything is that you give them only as much hint as they need to where you keep them from being stressed out, too just over the top, too frustrated. You want to keep them encouraged, you want to keep them wanting to work with you, but at the same time, you want to gradually shift the responsibility of the work from your shoulders to the puppy's shoulders. So the first time or two, you're going to lure him. The second time or two, he's going to maybe you need to lure 3 or 4 times. But after that, you're going to say, right here, and you're going to do this stretching, and you're going to say yes as soon as he's way back there. Yes. And I'm saying yes again because it's out of habit. That's not necessary. And also because I'm talking. So the first time, it's going to be right here. Yes. And I said yes as soon as he started. The second time, it's going to be right here. Yes. Now that second time, it was after he had gone back far enough. So you're going to practice at that point where you're saying the yes where the puppy is in the right position, making the full loop. because what puppies tend to do initially when you're training this is that they don't make a complete loop. They come up short, and then it's impossible for them to turn around and get straight. Then, after you've practiced that a while, you're ready to just go right here, yes. And then you don't say the yes until he's gotten himself back in position and until he's completed what you've asked of him. So at that point, you're starting to shift the responsibility from your shoulders to his. At that point, you can start even gradually fading the physical cues at all, because you want him to learn to get back in position without the physical cues, without the physical cues, because when you're on a walk, you're going to use the right here command if he gets out ahead of you. All right, right here, and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to go like this, and then I'm going to go right here, and he's going to loop back around, yes, and get himself back in heel position. Now, when you're going to use this, it's a hugely valuable tool when the puppy gets old enough to where you're no longer taking the treat bag and you're letting him enjoy the walk. He's going to occasionally get out ahead of you, and you need a tool in order to get the puppy back in position when he loses sight of you. Now, Eddie's getting tired, so but I do want to show you a couple of the cues just with short healing sessions, reward events, just to show you how to use the cues while you're moving. Okay, Eddie, right here. All right, so I'm going to go right here and point to the back, yes, and that's going to get him moving back behind me. And again, you don't have to use both. I can just do the physical cues. I'm exaggerating, bringing my shoulder back, yes. Or I can use right here the verbal cue, yes, and he knows to do it. Or you can use both. Now I'm going to go around, and that tells the puppy, yes, that we're going to do a right about turn. Or I can use my left shoulder and go, just pull my left shoulder forward, and I'm exaggerating the movement, yes. But when you're initially, starting to work with your puppy, you're going to need to exaggerate the cues in order for him to understand them, and then you're going to slowly fade them out of the picture. Right here. Yes. Yes.